Donald, nice to see you.
Thank you.
And always glad to be in your office,
Well,
or the conference room.
We love having you with this great crew.
All right, I want to go to some recent tweets of yours. You had a recent tweet in which you talked about food stamps being up 45%. Why is it up 45%?
Well, the economy is terrible. The world is not doing really well, although some parts of the world are doing incredibly well. But we're leading the world in terms of not doing well. And it's got to change. So obviously food stamps are going to be up, and a lot of other bad things are up also, including if you look at unemployment, if you look at the real number of unemployment. You know, I see where they try and say it's coming down. I have a friend who's a very, very brilliant economist who said that our real number is probably 20 or 21%. But we don't count it like we used to in the old days. You know, in the old days, if you were unemployed, you were unemployed. Today, if you stop looking for a job, they don't consider you unemployed. So,
or if you're underemployed, if you were a CEO of a company, now you got a part-time job
at they don't consider that either. Underemployed. Well, underemployed I leave out. But if you stop looking for a job, now all of a sudden you're not in the statistics. So it's a problem. The country has some very serious problems.
Speaker Gingrich made a remark. I think he referred to the president as the food stamp president, and it set off a lot of people wondering. For instance, some people thought it might be racist, and it was a horrible criticism of.
Well, Greta, everything's racist. If you ask any question or criticize the president, it's always racist, no matter what. If you said, how come he doesn't reveal his marks in school? Was he a bad student? The answer is yes.
How do you know that?
Because I've been told, and I hear that his one college, he was a very bad student, and then he got into Columbia, where he was a great student, and then he got into Harvard. So that's what I hear, and maybe it's not so, but that's what I hear.
I guess I have a little guilty conscience with some of my grades a little bit.
No, maybe everybody can say that. But, you know, if you say that, you're a racist. Now, if I say to you, you were a lousy student, I don't think you consider that racial or racist. So we'll see what happens. But he did get accused of being a racist because he mentioned the word food stamps, which is interesting.
So how do we overcome that? I mean, food stamps, it seems to me that, you know, the fact that we have so many people on food stamps means, you know, a lot of people are hurting. I mean, it means
that the economy's not doing well. I think he was also meaning the fact that people aren't getting out and working like they used to. And you can make that case also, to be honest with you. You can make a case that people don't maybe have the same drive to go out because there's incentives for people not. I mean, we have it where people that are unemployed don't want to go back to work because they can pick up many more months of their unemployment insurance and various other things. And I've seen that. I hired a person once who said, could I start in 3 months? By the way, when they said that, I said, no thanks, forget it. The deal's off.
What's going on that people want to do that? I mean, why don't people want to go out and, I mean, there's a difference. Some people want to, like, really go out and work, and they're willing to come in the 3 months early and get started and forego the benefits.
It's true.
Some are not. I mean, why is there such a divide?
Well, I think there probably is that divide. It's just happening more and more with this country, and maybe that's why the country is not doing like it used to do. But you do have people that want to take maximum advantage of their benefits before they go back to work. And that's a problem for this country.
Is that sort of a state of mind, though, in the sense that, you know, if it's so easy to do that, in the sense that people don't even care that much, that they're willing to run it out instead of, is there a sort of a malaise over the country?
Well, I don't say, first of all, it's not a state of mind for everybody. A lot of people are out there really pitching harder than they've ever pitched before and working harder than they've ever worked. This is a state of mind for some people. Certainly some people are not really out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. And look, I'm not the first one to tell you this, but there are many people that would rather stay unemployed for a certain period of time, pick up maximum benefits, and then go out and get a job.
I guess the reason why I'm sort of focusing on that is because a lot of part of the economy is people's, you know, attitude, inspiration. If people are feeling really good about things, they might go out and consume products. The more people consume products, the more, you know, need it is that we make those products. You know, state of mind is not unimportant. How do we inspire people or make people feel good that things are turning around, the economy is good, and is that an important element?
Well, it's a very important element. Look, I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs and a great fan of Apple and all of that, but wouldn't it be great if Apple could do something where they actually made these products in the United States? That would be the Super Apple. We'll change the name, Super Apple. Their products are made, for the most part, in China, And they get great credit and everything else, and it's a great company, it's a cash machine, but their products are made in China. Wouldn't it be great if their products were made in the United States?
Probably, they probably say they can't make them fast enough, because I saw the articles in the New York Times where they're made so quickly, the changes are done so quickly in China. I think that probably Apple would say we can get it done cheaper and faster in China.
You're right.
And so why not do it there?
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be a great thing? The new leader of Apple, if he said, you know, we're going to start building plants in the United States, we can do great things in this country. But somehow maybe the incentive's not there. Maybe the people aren't there. There's something wrong.
Well, that's
but when you look at 100% of Apple's products are made outside of this country, or virtually 100%, it's pretty sad. But they sell them in this country.
I guess that's why I circle back to this whole idea of inspiring and getting people going here and people being enthusiastic and the attitude start changing, the sort of the can-do attitude.
Well, it starts from the top. I mean, it starts from your president in this case, and it does start from the top. And people don't feel great about the country right now. You look at any poll, people aren't feeling very good about our political leaders or about the country.
I remember when the president, though, ran, we get thousands and thousands in crowds. He'd get huge crowds. People were immensely inspired.
You mean initially?
Initially,
when he was claiming change.
Well, I guess.
We got change.
Well, what happened? Did he run into
Greta,
the system?
We got change. Look, I mean, you know, you tell me. The word is real change. We need real change. He did run. People didn't know him. He never did anything. I mean, the only thing he ever did and the only deal he ever made is for his house. And he never did anything, so there was nobody to criticize. It's very interesting. If you're a person that does a lot, and really with great success, you have a big record where people can criticize you. So he came in with really no record. But he asked for change. He said he was going to give us change, and change has not been a good thing.
He's going to say this save the auto industry, that the unemployment rate has gone down in the last 2 months a little bit. We're going in the last 2 months.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. But if you look at it really, I mean, we have tremendous unemployment in this country, tremendous. And as far as the auto industry, do you think it would have been saved if they did nothing? I personally do. I think it would have been saved if they did nothing. They would have gone through the various rules, regulations of the court system, and I think it probably would have been saved if they did nothing.
Are you saying that he...
And you know, if you look at the bailout, I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars are still out there waiting to be repaid, as you know, including the auto industry.
What's your biggest criticism of him on handling the economy?
I just don't think there's incentive. A lot of people are leaving. I see friends of mine, they're investing in other countries. They're going to Brazil. They're investing in China. They're investing every place but the United States. I just don't see that the incentive is given to this great country. But it won't be great for long if we keep going like this.
Did he take the incentive away, or was the incentive not there when he came into office?
Well, you know, and I've said this on your show. I mean, I've said it a number of times. The one thing I knew, I felt so certain he was going to be a great cheerleader for the country. He hasn't been a cheerleader for the country. It's been very negative, especially with the whole thing with the class warfare and what he's doing right now in order to get reelected. And I always felt that whether you liked him or didn't like him, whether you believed in him or not, he was going to be a great cheerleader for the country. He hasn't been.
Why not?
You'd have to ask him that question.
What's your thought?
I think he wants to get reelected, and he wants to create a system where people dislike each other, and hopefully more than 50% of the people like him.
But that's a sign of a bad motive.
Well, that's a bad motive. No, it's a bad motive, and it's a bad thing for the country. And whether you call it, I mean, the common phrase being used is class warfare. But certainly a lot of people are saying that's the way he's going to get reelected, because the economy stinks, employment's bad, a lot of things are going on in this country, whether it's Solyndra and lots of other things where all of a sudden they become investment bankers. What are they investing billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars in different things for? They're not investment bankers. They're not Wall Street people who take risk and know what they're doing. I mean, after that investment was made, I read things that anybody that had a basic little bit of knowledge would have known that Solyndra could not have made it. They couldn't have made it. And yet we invest $500 million plus in Solyndra. And why did we do it? Because, in my opinion, they were all his friends.
Well, I think the thing that's so disturbing about that is that the product that Solyndra makes, you can buy cheaper than they can make it. That's a red flag, if anything ever is.
Well, no, you can buy much cheaper from other places
than
what they had to do in order to break even.
Right.
So why wouldn't somebody have said, well, wait a minute, this model is not working. There's no way you can make the product cheap enough so that we can get our money back.
You know what disturbs me about that beyond that is that whoever was pushing that or advising it, I know that the Secretary of Energy signed off on it, is that person still working and still making decisions? I mean, people make horrible decisions in government, and then we never seem to isolate who they are so that we can at least move them to a different job or move them out of the area.
Take it to the ultimate. The president is still working. Nobody fired the president, and I guarantee he knew about Solyndra. They were his friends.
How do you know that?
Because they were his friends.
Well,
they were his supporters.
Friends, but he's probably you really think he was looking
through
to look at?
We're dealing in the real world. They were his friends. They were his supporters. One of them was one of his biggest supporters. I mean, let's talk it. They knew exactly. He knew exactly. He knew who they were. Weren't they going in? Didn't I hear that they were going into the White House almost like on a weekly basis and seeing him and seeing his people? Of course, he knew.
I will concede it's probably one of the dumbest blunders, and it's costing American taxpayers over $500 million.
Yeah, but that's only one. You have many other Solyndras out there.
Well, when we may see some more. There are two
well,
other companies that have gone belly up.
You've already had some, and you're going to have a lot more.
All right. Speaker Gingrich and Governor Romney down in Florida. Right now, it looks like Governor Romney has got double-digit lead on Speaker Gingrich. Why?
Well, for one thing, I just left, and lots of commercials. Going both ways, in all fairness, but lots of commercials, and pretty effective commercials. I think people feel he did very well in the last debate, and I do, by the way, and I told him so. I think he really did well in the last debate.
Governor Romney, mean?
Yes. And we all sort of felt that Newt Gingrich, and I like him, they're both friends of mine, but Newt was this great debater, but he didn't do well in the last two debates. And Romney did do well in the last two debates, and that really did have an impact.
Who do you think would create a bigger change in direction of how our country is going if president?
I think both will create change.
But
I think
who's a bigger change person?
I think anything and anybody is better than what we have right now. We really need change, and we need it rapidly, because what's going on, this country cannot afford to continue down this path.
But everyone who goes into office says, I'm going to be the compassionate conservative, I'm going to be the change person or whatever, and everyone seems to run into the same log jam. It's really hard to navigate the waters in Washington. And I'm trying to think, who would be more effective in...
Well, I'm going to come out at some point and I'm going to endorse somebody, so I don't want to really say right now who's going to be more effective. But I think both of them would be better than what we have right now.
Is there anything that President Obama does that you admire him about?
Well, that's your one tough question. Again, I thought he was going to be a great cheerleader.
I know, but what has he done that you admire for? Anything at all?
Good campaigner.
That's not a lot.
Pretty good campaigner. I mean, look, he came from where nobody even knew who he was. I mean, you look at this as a Manchurian candidate. Nobody even knew much about him. College people didn't know him. Nobody knew him. I mean, nobody ever comes out. Ex-girlfriends, nothing, nobody. And he came from someplace. He became president of the United States. Inconceivable, but it happened. So what did he do well? I guess he campaigned well. He's cunning. I just don't think he's putting that level of intelligence into gear for this country. He's doing it for himself. He's doing it for himself.
Is there anything at all you
Well, they could say bin Laden.
Besides the campaigning.
Well, look, you could say bin Laden as an example. But let's say you're sitting there and they come in. We have bin Laden. We can drop a bomb on him. We can do three things. Nothing, which is, I think nobody would say that. Drop a bomb, boom, or we could go in and get him. I think most people would say go in and get him. So you could say bin Laden, but I just don't see, I honestly, I don't see where that's a big thing, because I think anybody would have done what he did, meaning one of those two choices, anybody. The only third choice is we're not going to do anything. I can't imagine somebody saying, maybe Ron Paul would say, leave him alone.
Why would you want to be president?
Well, I think the country is in tremendous trouble. I love this country.
But why would you want to be president?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, why would you want to? Because I know you toyed with the idea.
I have toyed with it, in particular recently, and I would like to see the country straightened out. The country is a mess. We're going nowhere fast. Everybody's eating our lunch. If you look at what's happening, and I go to other countries, I deal with other countries. If you look at what's going on in some of the other countries in this world, it's like rocket ships going up. It's like
But then we got the Greece going down and dragging Europe down.
And that's different. And certainly you have examples like that also. We didn't exactly help Europe with our whole mortgage fiasco where they were buying into our debt that we allowed to happen, and our banks going down and taking some of their banks with them. So, we can't necessarily say that we're totally not connected to Europe. But if you think about Europe, they did something with the euro that was not meant for our benefit. And now they're paying a very big price. It's going to be very interesting to see whether or not it works out. But they came up with the euro and the eurozone in order to hurt the United States, in order to get together and let's go and get the big boy. Hasn't worked so well. What has worked well is China and other countries. They have worked very well on really hurting the United States.
Art, if you think Gingrich and Romney would be better than President Obama, tell me what could possibly tempt you to run for president if you think both those candidates would be good candidates?
Well, one thing that's very important is the candidate would have to win. You have to make sure that a candidate's going to win.
You don't think either one of them could win?
I think that maybe they could, and it's something I'm looking at and studying and watching very closely.
How about getting beaten up by the ads? Would you want that?
And well, they were rough. They were rough ads.
How about on you, though?
It could happen. I mean, it could happen, and some people might believe them, and some people might not. But if you really look at what's happening with this country, and people say, and I love what I'm doing, and you know it better than me. I love what I'm doing. I would rather not run. Frankly, I wish Obama would be a great president. I'd be very happy if he'd be a great president. Hasn't worked out that way. You need somebody else. They have to be able to win. They're going to have to be able to win.
All right,
we can't go through 4 more years of Obama in this country.
All right, let's assume that one of the two is the nominee, and I think that's a pretty good assumption. And it looks like the polls say that the nominee cannot win against President Obama. Do you jump in at that point?
Well, then I'd have to make my own determination. I'd also have to see who it is. I mean, which one of the two. But I'll probably come out and endorse somebody over the not-too-distant future. And obviously, I wouldn't be running if I'm endorsing somebody. I'm not going to endorse them and then run.
So then you said you're going to endorse. It seems unlikely you're going to run.
No, if I endorse somebody, I will only consider running if that person doesn't win. It's possible I'll endorse somebody and the person won't win. But in the meantime, I can't do anything until, as you know, May. Because the show continues on. I have The Apprentice, and you're not allowed, because of a very, very, in my opinion, stupid law, you're not allowed to run if you have a show. You're allowed to be president and go on all sorts of shows and fly on 747 Air Force One and do all sorts of things and be in the media all the time, but you're not allowed to run if you have a show. I don't know why they put it in, but they put it in. So I have a very successful show, and I'm not allowed to run anyway until May. So I'll make that decision in May.
One last question, 2 parts. What's your advice for Governor Romney, and what's your advice to Speaker Gingrich?
Well, I wish they would get along, and I'm saying this as a joint. I wish they could I mean, they are really playing right into the Democrats' hands, if you look at it, and they're playing into Obama's.
Who's worse?
They're both pretty rough.
Well, you've been in Florida.
I watched this weekend, and I was in Florida this weekend, and I watched some really vicious ads.
Who's worse?
I think they each have their moments, Greta. You have moments where Mitt is brutal, and you have moments where Newt is brutal, and I can't say who's worse. They're both pretty bad, and in the end, now, it may not work out that way, because it could be, you know, there's a whole concept that it's a toughening process, and whoever comes out and emerges is going to be tough and ready to go, and you could say that's true. The other thing that you can say is that instead of having like a winner immediately, and then you're going to have 4 or 5 months of dead silence, it keeps going on, and the Republicans are in the news all the time, and maybe that's a positive, and it could very well be. But right now, they really are going after each other, and I think that, to a certain extent, at least, is playing into Obama's hands.
Looks like there's blood on the floor.
A lot of blood.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you.